If you're moving from QuickBooks to Odoo, one of the first things that feels different is journals. And if you've opened Odoo for the first time and wondered why there are sales journals, purchase journals, bank journals, cash journals, and miscellaneous journals everywhere, don't worry. You're not alone. For QuickBooks users, journals often sit quietly in the background. Most people spend their time creating invoices, entering bills, and matching bank transactions. The accounting happens automatically, but the journal structure itself isn't something most users think about every day. Odoo takes a different approach. It still uses the same accounting principles. It still has a chart of accounts underneath everything. But Odoo makes journals a visible part of the accounting workflow. Once you understand what journals do and why they exist, a huge part of Odoo accounting suddenly starts making sense. Let's start with QuickBooks. Imagine you're creating a customer invoice. You open the invoice screen, choose your customer, and add a product. That's the workflow most QuickBooks users know. The same thing happens when entering a vendor bill. If you're recording a check or making a payment, you work from that form as well. Behind the scenes, QuickBooks is creating accounting entries. Debits and credits are happening automatically. Revenue is being recorded. Accounts receivable is being updated. Expenses are being posted. But most users never have to think about where those entries are being organized. The software handles that in the background. Now let's look at Odoo. In Odoo, the same chart of accounts still exists. You still have your revenue accounts, expense accounts, and bank accounts. But Odoo introduces an additional layer called a journal. Think of a journal as an organized accounting lane. Each type of transaction has its own lane. Customer invoices flow through the sales journal. Vendor bills flow through the purchase journal. Bank transactions flow through the bank journal. And adjustments flow through the miscellaneous journal. Instead of mixing everything together, Odoo groups transactions by their purpose. When you open the Journals menu in Odoo Accounting, you'll immediately see this organization. Separate journals for sales, purchases, and banks. Each journal has its own configuration, its own numbering sequence, and it controls how certain transactions are handled. This is where many QuickBooks users initially get confused. They assume a journal is replacing the chart of accounts. It's not. The chart of accounts still exists underneath everything. The journal simply organizes how transactions enter the accounting system. The chart of accounts tells Odoo where the money ultimately belongs. The journal tells Odoo what type of transaction is being recorded. Both work together. Now let's look at a practical example. Suppose we're creating a customer invoice. We select our customer and add a service. At this point, the invoice may still be in draft status. Nothing has officially hit the accounting records yet. Once we click Confirm, Odoo assigns an official invoice number and creates the accounting entry. It clearly shows it belongs to the sales journal. From the invoice, we can open the underlying journal entry. This is where we see the real accounting. The journal, the entry number, and the lines. For a $500 invoice, we see accounts receivable debited and revenue credited. Everything is organized and visible. This level of visibility is one of the reasons many accountants and finance teams appreciate Odoo. When questions arise, they can quickly follow the trail. They can move from a financial report to the journal entry, and from there to the source document. Nothing is hidden. Everything is connected. And because journals maintain separate numbering sequences, reporting and auditing become easier as organizations grow. A sales invoice can be traced through the sales journal, a vendor bill through the purchase journal, bank activity through the bank journal. The structure remains organized even with high transaction volumes. This is one of the subtle differences between accounting software and an ERP system. An ERP isn't simply recording transactions, it's organizing processes. Now, if you're coming from QuickBooks, don't think of journals as extra work. You're not entering transactions twice or performing extra steps. You're simply seeing a layer that QuickBooks keeps mostly behind the scenes. The invoice, bill, and payment processes are still straightforward. Once you understand journals, many other Odoo concepts become easier to learn. Draft versus posted, journal items, and troubleshooting become much faster. So here's the key takeaway. Think of journals as organized accounting lanes that keep your financial data structured and easy to manage. In the next video, we'll go one level deeper and look at journal items. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.